For there is hope for a tree, if it is cut down, that it will sprout again, and that its tender shoots will not cease, though its roots may grow old in the earth, and its stump may die in the ground. Yet, at the scent of water, it will bud, and bring forth branches like a plant. Job 14, verse 7 to 9. Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Fostering Resilience Podcast. My name is Bossala. For those of you that are just new here, I did an introductory video in the last video talking about what Fostering Resilience Podcast is all about and why I'm actually doing this. Be sure to catch up on that, and I would love to say thank you and welcome today. Today I'm going to be talking about the story of my grief. I'm going to be talking about who I lost. And like I mentioned in the last episode, you can grab your popcorns, grab some tissues. I got mine already, just in case there's some rivers flowing. And yes, I'm just going to be talking about my story of grief and who I lost. I feel like it's important for me to lay that background, and I also want to mention at this time that I am not a counselor, I'm not a grief specialist, but I have experienced grief and I have gone through counseling myself, which I recommend. Very, very helpful. But I just want to talk from my own perspective of dealing with grief and how I have, how the journey has proceeded from having that life-shattering moments, like I said earlier, up until now. Have you ever wondered why, when for those that have experienced, for those that haven't, that's okay. I don't wish for you to experience death or experience the loss of a loved one. But for those of us that have experienced that, have you ever wondered why, when you lose a loved one or when you lose someone you really care about, there's so many what ifs, there's so many whys, there's so many things you wish you had done, things you wish you had said, things you wish you hadn't said. And I think for me, the one reason why, now looking back, the one reason why I felt that way, I felt, all the whys, I felt the what ifs, is because death is final. I'm not trying to be gothic here or trying to be cryptic or dark. Death is final. It's like a permanent seal. It's like signed, seal, delivered, all done. If that person that you love is probably sick in the hospital, there's that hope, there's that flicker of hope that they will get better and you still get to see them. But with death, it's you don't get to see them anymore on earth. Hopefully we get to see them in heaven, but you don't get to see them on earth, and it's very scary. It's a very scary feeling. It's a very scary emotion, and these were some of the things that I felt when I experienced loss. So let's back it up. Let's back it up and get to the nitty-gritty. I mentioned here earlier in my first video and the first episode of the podcast, for those that are listening, that I am living in the United States with my husband, and I moved here about 3 years ago now. So I came in January of 2020, and right before the lockdown. So I came here for my master's in public health, and I arrived to Fargo, North Dakota, one of the coldest states in the country. So I had that culture shock I had that weather shock, coming from a very warm country and coming from a very big city. I was born in Lagos, Nigeria, which has a population of about 20 million people, if not more. And so I was used to the hustle and bustle, of life there. And here, coming to Fargo is very laid back, the Midwest, very reserved. So there was that culture shock, but I feel like that was also a learning experience for me, getting exposed to a different culture, getting exposed to different people. Exactly 14 days. I don't know why when I tell this story, I always specify the 14 days. I think it's just because to me that was so precise. You know, 2 weeks is a very short time. 2 weeks, a 2 week old baby, still very dependent. A 2 week old house is still very new, you're still getting used to things. A 2 week old car, you're still in that excitement and euphoria of having something new. So exactly 2 weeks, exactly 14 days after I arrived to the United States, I got a call from home. A call that sometimes I wish I never got, but I got a call that my mom was involved in an accident and she died. She was hit by a car, let's just put it that way. And I I was shattered. I was so shattered. That's why I call it my life-shattering moment. I screamed, I kicked, I, you know, I should tell you what happened that morning. Yeah, I think that would be better. So that morning, I was preparing to go to school, trying to still very new, trying to make sure I got all my paperwork, my onboarding process into the graduate school, got that settled, make sure that I got my assistantship all ready to go, and still getting into classes. Still didn't even know, still using the maps to find some buildings because it was just 2 weeks. And so I get an email from the international student office, and the email was asking for me to come that morning, that there was something urgent that they needed my attention for. So right away I was thinking, what did I do? I was thinking, what happened? Did I do something wrong? Is there something that I should have done that I didn't do? Or is there something that I did that I shouldn't have done? Just questions like that. And so when I got there, I was ushered into the office of the director. Now, that's getting really dramatic. Like if maybe I could have, no one said anything. It's like, oh, you should come to the office of the director. I was like, okay. We got into the office. She closed the door behind us. I was like, okay, so what's happening? And she said, oh, your dad's friend called, and he said he was going to call back once you're here. I said, oh, okay. I still didn't think, anything. I was still hoping, I just didn't know. Now that I understand that this is in news from home, I was starting to get a little nervous, but still not thinking about death. And so he called back, and then when he called back, he spoke to me in my dialect. I speak Yoruba language. That am I sitting down? I was like, yeah, I'm sitting. And at that moment, I was like, I just hope this man is not going to drop a bombshell on me. And he said, in my language, that your mom was hit by a car on her way to work this morning and she died. And I said, could you please repeat that? Because I, first of all, immediately felt like I didn't hear him. I went deaf. I felt like I went deaf in that moment, and I told him, could he please repeat that? And he did. I dropped the phone, I rolled on the floor, I kicked. Immediately, I felt like the whole earth was spinning. Like, I felt like the room we were in was spinning. I, I immediately felt numb. I immediately felt scared. I was nervous. I was shaking. Like, I felt like there was just a tornado of emotions going on in my body. And when I think about it now, I still feel the hurt. I would say it's pretty not as intense as I did when I first got the message. I'm going to talk more about guilt, in brief, and I'm going to share a story of what happened a few days before my mom died rather, and we had a conversation. We called, and there was something that happened that we couldn't talk to each other, and there was guilt associated with that. Like I said earlier, like with grief and death, and the fact that it's very final, and it's like a done deal, so to speak. There are a lot of emotions, there are a lot of questions that we ask, there are a lot of things that we begin to wonder in our heads, like, I wish I had done this, I wish I had said this, I wish I had, not said this, I wish I had done more of this. And so in that moment, I called my brothers, and I have two brothers, by the way. I called my brothers and I was like, is this true? And they said yes. And I cried all the more. I I was so broken. And it hurt. It's a feeling that is very intense. Like, it's an emotion that is quite gut wrenching, I would say. For those that, still have their mothers, and have great mothers, by the way, because, we understand dynamics of life and different circumstances and situations. It's, it's something that, should be cherished. It's something that should, be put value on. Um, that was how I lost my mother. The last time I saw her was at the airport when she hugged me and she prayed for me as usual. My mom prays a lot. And we talk a lot. We talk so much. She's my best friend. She's my best friend. And the last, after that, I had to join the funeral over the phone. So, my mom died on a Tuesday. She was buried on the Friday. And because I just got to the United States, I couldn't just up and leave. My accommodation hadn't been permanently secured. I had gotten a place, but the moving date was still 2 weeks away. So I was still squatting. My things were still in bags because I hadn't been well settled. And so I had to join over the phone. And so my brothers called and did a video call to bid my mom farewell. Till now, sometimes it still feels like a dream. Sometimes I still want to pinch myself. Sometimes I feel like, oh, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to call her. But it's 3 years already and I haven't heard her voice. And, there's that reality that's starting to dawn in on me that she's actually no more here with us. And It's I'm kind of speechless right now because um, I'm starting to think of a lot of things as I'm sharing this with you. But in spite of this, I I am grateful. I am grateful to God that I'm here and I'm able to talk. Before, I couldn't say one sentence about my mom and then just crying, just the waterworks are flowing. I think one thing that I have learned, and it's so amazing how that immediately gives you a different perspective about life. Isn't that funny? How while you're here on earth, there's some things that we misconstrue about life. There's some things that we do not really grasp the true meaning of about life. But once we experience some form of loss and we actually absorb that experience, we have a different perspective towards life. So that's giving us a different perspective towards life. Amazing. Never really thought about that, but I did experience that. So I'm gonna end with this because today I said I was just gonna talk about my story of grief, who I lost, and what happened. But I want to end with this. I read a book by Anna Napolitano. Her name is Anna. She wrote this book called Dear Edward. And there was a statement made in the book that says, everything ends. What matters is what starts in that moment. Everything ends. What matters is what starts in that moment. It's a book called Dear Edward by Anna Napolitano. Anna Napolitano. So, with that, that's the end. That's the end of something. That's the end of the relationship with my mother. And what am I going to do in that moment? I can either do two things. I can stay stuck in the whys, the why me, the what ifs, the questions. I can stay in the questions, or I can decide to say, this is my newfound reality. What am I going to do with this? Hence this podcast, hence this, talking, hence this community of fostering resilience, being able to really say, how can we bounce back from experiencing loss, from experiencing grief? What matters is what starts in that moment. So I am encouraging us, for those of us that have experienced any form of loss, that's the end of something. It's sad, but it's the truth. But it's not like, I'm not saying that, we forget. I don't want us to misunderstand what I'm saying, because I do not forget my mom. I think about her every day. I feel like she's a part of her is with me. But I do not have a physical relationship with her anymore. I can't hear her voice. I can't touch her. I can't reach out to her. I don't have that. So what matters is me holding on to those memories that I have of her and saying, what do I want to do now in this moment? How do I move forward with this newfound reality? We're not necessarily moving on. I don't think we move on from grief. I think we move forward with grief, because I feel like there is a life before grief and there is a life after grief. Because in the life after grief, the person you lost is no longer physically dead, but you're still here, you're still living life, you're still moving on. So how do we move forward rather? How do we move forward in that newfound reality of ours? And I'm going to be sharing how I move forward. and how I am still moving forward. Maybe some days I probably take some steps backward, truthfully, when I'm so down and I start crying, and sometimes I I cry so much. Sometimes I cry like a baby saying I want my mommy because uh, it's kind of tough. But the next minute, I summon courage and strength as God would give me, and I move forward to do what's next, and what the next best thing that God has in store for me. And I believe that you can do that. I believe that anyone listening to me out there that has experienced any form of loss or grief, you can move forward. I am moving forward, and I'm so excited to share with you what's been happening, and my journey through to healing. I'm still healing, and these were some of my lame excuses to starting this podcast. I was like, I am still healing. What do I have to say? But I believe even we can all heal together. We can all, move forward together, even though our circumstances are different. My journey through grief will be different from your journey, because your relationship with whosoever it is you lost, whosoever it is you're separated from, it's different from my relationship with my mom. But we can all learn from each other, and we can all move forward. I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for coming on today. I want to encourage us that you can do it. You can still shine through loss. You can be the best version of yourself, even with this newfound reality. You really can. It's in you. We just have to, tap into it, and we just have to summon that strength and pray for God's grace. I want to say thank you. I really look forward to talking to you in the next episode. And for those listening also, I really want to say thank you. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great week, month, time, wherever you are. I just hope that the rest of your time, the rest of your day goes well. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. The rest of your night, if you're listening at night, goes well. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next episode. This is Fostering Resilience Podcast, and my name is Bosala. Thank you. Bye.